of, maybe I think the grant I think we're applying for now will be more than we, I think, initially anticipated.
Yeah, so it's.
So I think, but I think I think as you've kind of indicated, we've done our homework, and this is hopefully going to do everything, or a lot of everything that needs to be done to Twin Pines. So this is actually, or Temple Pines, this is actually really good.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so moving on to item 6, I will make the following resolution. Resolution, Small Cities Grant Program for Temple Pines improvements, whereas federal monies are available under Connecticut's Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program administered by the State of Connecticut Department of Housing pursuant to Public Law 93-383 as amended, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 127C and Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Commissioner of Housing is authorized to disperse such federal monies to local municipalities, and whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of North Haven make application to the state for $3,200,000 in order to undertake a small cities community development block grant program and to execute an assistance agreement therefore, should one be offered. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen of the town of North Haven, 1, that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for state assistance imposed by Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, and 2, that the filing of an application by the town of North Haven in an amount not to exceed $3,200,000 is hereby approved, and that the first selectman of North Haven is hereby authorized and directed to file such application with the Commissioner of the Department of Housing to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required by the Commissioner, to execute an assistance agreement with the State of Connecticut for state financial assistance, if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of North Haven. I will make that resolution as read.
Very good. Is there a motion? That's the motion. Is there a second?
Thank you for reading that, because that was one long resolution, and I'll second that.
All right. Two other things I want to mention about this in the discussion. This is a really good thing that we said, but what this will also do, ladies and gentlemen, is install an emergency generator. So if the power goes out, we'll have a generator for the senior citizens there, so they'll continue to have power. And also, there'll be a security camera system there for added safety. So those are two other components in addition to everything else I just mentioned. Doors, windows, everything else. And that elevator, of course, being a key. So we have a motion and we have a second.
I never felt safe in that elevator, so good. Sorry.
So we call for the vote? All
Yes.
those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to consider and act upon a resolution authorizing the sale and disposal of various surplus public works equipment and vehicles.
All right, well, I'll read 8, the resolution.
And I guess we've done this on
Yes.
other occasions in the past.
Do we have to read the entire list?
No,
I think-
we don't.
No? Okay.
Just say
Well,
yes.
it's a long list of 31 items, and Bill is absolutely right. We do this on occasion. Usually it's just a few police cars or maybe a old backhoe or something. This is quite an extensive list, certainly the longest I've seen in my 10th year now on the Board of Selectmen. And so I would like to make an amendment to the resolution before I read it. I would like that, because in this resolution, we, the Board of Selectmen, are authorizing the Director of Procurement and Administration, Richard Monaco, to auction or dispose of these 31 items, mostly public works equipment. But I would like to make our authorization conditioned on Mr. Monaco providing us with a report at the end, telling us how it went with each item.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this is a regular meeting, so I can amend. So I would like to add to the end of the resolution that this authorization is conditioned upon receipt of a final report of said auction or disposal from Mr. Monaco. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, just so there's no confusion, so we move forward with this, he'll provide a report.
At the end, yeah.
At the end.
I would just.
That's fine.
Something that he, because it's just such a long list, I would like to see how it goes.
I think that's.
I'm pretty familiar, Ed Smikowski, our former, the late finance director, would, informally tell me, yeah, we got this much money for each retired police car, so I had some idea, but this is such an extensive list and some of these things here, I'm not even sure what they are. So I just felt like I would like to see more of a formal written report because of the extent of the list.
We'll do it.
Does that seem fair?
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to amend the resolution to say this authorization is conditioned upon receipt of a final report of said auction and/or disposal from Mr. Monaco.
All right, so we have a motion.
Which I think, just for clarification, I think as Mike was trying to do, we're not asking to approve any of the bids, we're just wanting a report on what was actually.
A final report, so that's.
Of
I think
the
that
items that
implies-
were sold and what the prices
Yeah,
were.
obviously, we're authorizing him, as he should, to have the discretion. I'm not questioning that. I just want to know what these 31 items went for, It's not just the normal couple of cop cars.
Oh, yeah.
It's
And just for people, maybe, along the same lines, there are a lot of different, like you pointed out, Sally, 31 items with a lot of different equipment.
Yeah.
Including things like some arc welders, but there are some vehicles there, and you can see that, we definitely have gotten our use out of the vehicles.
I mean,
Like,
there's
1997, 1999, 1994, 1997, 1993, vehicles are going to be auctioned off. So we've gotten 20 plus years out of, 25 years in some cases or more out of these vehicles.
right.
So it's not like any of this is something we just purchased. I think Public Works is pretty much, gone through the usable life on all these items.
Right, we never authorized this type of auction or disposal until they've reached their usefulness to us. That's why it's termed in the resolution surplus, because, but there's a lot of big ticket items, there's some medium ticket items, there's some unknown ticket items to me here. I don't know what an electric transfer switch is, but, it sounds like a switch
The only
that
typo we should
transfers
fix
things
is that
electrically.
it's not Torre, it's Toro. A Toro 325D rear wheel.
Yeah,
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is like the next one is the front ones, but just a
Yeah.
small typo, I'm sorry.
I will fix it.
yeah, Toro, the Toro company wouldn't like that. But, I'll make that motion for the amendment as read,
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
okay?
All right.
And now I will read the resolution. Make this following resolution: resolved that the town of North Haven authorize the auction and disposal of the following surplus public works equipment and vehicles. The Director of Procurement Administration, Richard Monaco, is authorized to determine acceptable bid offers and/or take said equipment vehicles to alternate auction locations. All revenue received will return to the town's general fund. This authorization is contingent upon receipt of a final report of said auction or disposal from Mr. Monaco. And then I would just say, as far as the Public Works equipment that's referenced in the resolution I just read, those are the items listed in our agenda.
All right, so we have a motion?
I'll second that motion.
Second? Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. The next item.
Next item is resignation and appointments. A motion for the appointment of Sumit Sharma, 88 Frost Drive, to the Community Services Commission for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I reviewed Mr. Sharma's resume, and it's
It is.
very impressive, and I am confident, I know him, and I'm confident he'll do a great job on this commission.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. We appreciate your willingness to serve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one.
I'll move for the appointment of Nancy Barrett, 1 Crestview Drive, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Board of Finance for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
Okay, is there a second?
Very good choice. I'll second that
Yes.
appointment.
Thank you, Nancy. So we have a motion, we have a second.
Perhaps you could just explain about the open, how there's someone appointed from various boards and what they do.
So the
Is
open-
this- Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be helpful. Then people might not be aware of
All
this
right,
board.
okay.
Its meetings are never on TV or anything.
So we re-energized, so to speak, the Open Space Committee, let's say about 7 years ago. Stephen Fitzgerald's the chairman, and what we do is every year, and this is where Mrs. Barrett has been voted in tonight, we have a member of the Board of Finance sit on the Open Space Committee. And the Open Space Committee is comprised of various stakeholders throughout the town. Mr. Fitzgerald happens to be an attorney. There are other people there who take a great interest in open space. So we try to put together this group who really feel passionate about this. Okay. Down through the years, we've bonded for open space. Mm-hmm. Now, open space availability is only there when there are willing sellers. Right now, we have no willing sellers. So we activate the Open Space Committee when we see there's opportunities, or people come to us and say, would the town like to purchase open space? That's kind of a summary.
Yeah, we do bond, but I think we got some grant money one time for one of those as
Yes,
well.
yeah,
Was
we
it
did.
the one, Kings Highway? I don't remember exactly, but we did get some grant money
Yeah, we
toward one purchase. And the Open Space Advisory Committee, who do they advise? They advise the Board of Selectmen because
That's right.
per charter, we vote on whether to purchase property.
That's right.
Excuse me, to sell.
So,
Purchase goes to town meeting.
Right.
But the sale goes through us.
Right.
And so, sorry about that. The Open Space Advisory Committee advises us on the purchase of open space.
the purchase.
Yes.
Right.
So with that, I'll second the appointment. And did we vote yet on Mrs. Barrett?
Oh, we'll call for the vote in a second. A
second.
You
made the motion.
you did the first. Bill
Me-
already
second.
seconded. We just need a vote.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
All
Yeah.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And continuing on with open space, I will move for the reappointment of Sandra Stetson, 542 Middletown Avenue, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Conservation Commission for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
I'll second Sandra's reappointment.
All right, Sandra, thank you again for your willingness to serve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next, I'll make a motion for the reappointment of Mary Lou Stamp, 134 Middletown Avenue, also to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
Second?
All right, Mary Lou, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion for the reappointment of Brian Cummings, 107 Clintonville Road, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
I'll second Brian's reappointment.
Brian, thank you for willing to serve on this commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll make a motion for the reappointment of Mark Cofrancesco, 6 Frost Drive, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the Land Trust for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
Second?
Mark, thank you. You're a longstanding member, Mark, and we appreciate your efforts here. All those in favor?
Aye. And finally, I will make the motion for the reappointment of Stephen J. Fitzgerald, 34 River Road, to the Open Space Advisory Committee with the recommendation of the first selectman for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
I'll second Stephen's reappointment.
Stephen, thank you again for your continued service, and we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
So, coming back to what Sally talked about earlier, when you look at these appointments, we have Board of Finance, Conservation Commission, we have Park and Rec, representation from Planning and Zoning, the Land Trust, and Stephen has the legal acumen on some of this also. So as I mentioned earlier, we got various stakeholders. Each of them bring a level of expertise to this Open Space Commission.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Because I don't want them watching at home to think that she was slighted. Inland Wetland also is required to put an
Yes.
appointment, but they did not meet.
They didn't meet, I know, right?
So they could not appoint, usually Cheryl Junewick
Yes.
is their representative, so if, I don't want anyone to think that she was intentionally omitted, but because they haven't officially appointed her yet, or reappointed her, but when they meet again, they will, and then we'll put it on the agenda.
That's exactly right. So I have one more. You're absolutely right.
Right, yes, and the, Mr. Fitzgerald is your selection. That's by the ordinance that created the
That's right.
Open Space Advisory Board. It listed the six commission members, 6 commissions represented, plus the first selectman has his selection. So we'll take care of the final one, hopefully next month.
Yes.
Great.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
Item 10.
Number 10 is bond releases. Motion to, for number P16-36, 84 Middletown Avenue. The amount of the original bond was $14,000. Currently, the balance of the bond is $14,000. The release of I'll make a motion for the release of the entire bond balance, $14,000, with the recommendation the Planning and Zoning Commission and the town engineer.
Second?
All right, motion, and we have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. And our second and final bond is P18-18, 32-38 Second Point Road. The amount of original bond was $22,000. The current balance of the bond is $22,000, and I will make a motion to release the entire bond balance of $22,000 with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Engineer.
I'll second that release.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I'll make a motion per item 11 to approve the property tax refunds listed in the agenda.
After looking at the releases, nothing unusual, and I'll second those property tax refunds.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Item 12, the next regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen will be here on Thursday, February 2nd at 6:30 here at Upstairs Conference Room in Town Hall. And we're at the point, public comment. Any comments?
Good evening, Nancy Barrett, 1 Crestview Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank this Board of Selectmen for your unanimous vote to appoint me to the Open Space Advisory Committee. I appreciate your support, and I'll try to do my very best. Secondly, I'd like to just give a public thanks to Lynn Sadowski. She works very, very hard for this town, and I've seen that she has been tireless in not only identifying grants that will benefit this town, but also applying for them. So I'd just like to say thank you so much to Lynn for all of her work. And then I have 2 questions. The first relates to the announcement about the upcoming disaster mitigation plan meeting. You had mentioned this includes 15 cities and towns in South Central Connecticut, and I noticed when you go to that announcement that there's a color coding for each of the different towns. So I'm just wondering, does the color coding, and we'll find out more about this obviously at the meeting, but does the color coding relate to some relative level of flooding risk? In which case, does that also reflect the ability to apply or have access to equal amounts of funding?
The
or
other
is
way,
it
Mike?
Either way, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you see the little insert there,
Oh,
that
yeah,
how there's
there.
different
Yeah.
levels of green and blue of different, shades.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to both questions, yes.
So there's differing levels of flooding risk, and so therefore each of those towns would have the ability to apply for differing levels potentially of.
It wouldn't be the
Support.
towns applying, it would be the COG applying on behalf of the town.
Oh, I see. So it's not the
right.
individual. You wouldn't be applying for North Haven.
But we've applied separately in certain areas.
Sure.
And, with the regulatory aspect of Army Corps of Engineers, you would think that we could go into a brook, as an example, and just clean out and dredge the brook. You can't. You have to get permission. And we have our local wetlands that, doesn't give us a problem on that. But when it's major drainage projects, Army Corps of Engineers, deep, and it's quite complicated to try to get something done. So.
Certainly that road that leads up to the back of Amazon has problems on both sides, right?
Well, that's part of the national flood zone.
Right,
So we
right.
can't do anything there.
But you had mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers, and that
Yeah.
made me think of that.
Like, I'm trying to get this Todd Drive South project jump-started, but there's so much regulatory bureaucracy in trying to get
Mm-hmm.
things done, because the main problem there is state property. And that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But yeah, I think the answer is yes and yes to your question.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then my second question is, back on December 30th, so not just a couple of weeks ago, the Connecticut Department of Public Health changed the risk rating for New Haven County COVID-19 risk up to an orange level, which represents the highest risk level. And so, and this is community risk. And so with that comes specific recommendations that are on their website at both the individual level and at the community level. At the individual level, they recommend wearing high-quality masks, and secondarily, consider avoiding indoor activities that are non-essential, particularly for those people who are at risk of becoming quite sick. And again, you just never know who's going to become very, very sick with this illness. But at a community level, the recommendation is to implement healthcare surge support as needed. So I'm just wondering, as we kind of ebb and flow through this, the ups and downs of various levels of infectivity, and quite honestly, I think that there's kind of an underreporting now that people can take all these at-home tests. I don't think we really have a true gauge of the level of infectivity. What is it that's being done sort of across the board at our town? Anything, or in our school systems?
Well, we're in an advisory role right now. Masks aren't mandated, but people. We say if you feel that your immune system is compromised, feel free to wear a mask. We encourage the washing and the washing of hands throughout the town buildings. We refill the dispensers on the hand sanitizers. But like last night was a good example. I was at the governor's ball, 2,000 people. I got invited. Nobody's wearing a mask.
That's really
So,
unfortunate.
I was telling Sally earlier and Bill that I got invited to the governor's inauguration, and there had to be in the Armory in Hartford 1,000 people. And only one person was wearing a mask. So I think the answer to your question, Nancy, is that we're just advising. We're not mandating. And we see that seems to be not only here in North Haven, but just about everywhere what the municipalities are doing in an advisory role.
Well, and just jumping on what Nancy said, if you've been reading the Register the past couple of days,
I have.
there's front page articles on this new variant. And Val and I were talking about this before the meeting. They've given it some, I don't know why they give them such crazy names. This one I can't, it's all a bunch of numbers and letters. There's this new one that they're saying has a high infectious level. It's not over. I mean, we all are happy that life is crawling back to normal and has crawled back to normal. But I still wear a mask when I go to Stop and Shop, and I'm a little concerned that maybe only 10% of my fellow shoppers are doing so. So yes, all we have is an advisory role. I would advise people to follow what the CDC is saying, because, and I think it's a little too soon to see what potential uptick there's going to be as a result of the holiday season.
Exactly.
So, let's be optimistic, but I still think there is room for a high level of caution, especially if you're compromised or elderly in some way. And everybody wants to think it's over, but just read the newspaper. It's not.
Right.
I've had it twice, so I can.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's not just the elderly, it's not just those who are immune compromised, and they do say, or they at least suggested, that the uptick in December might have been sort of the remnants of everyone gathering for Thanksgiving, which we all know was very late in November this year. So as Sally pointed out, we might not see the effects of everyone gathering for Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's this year until, well into January and maybe even into February, particularly as it gets colder and colder and people are inside even more often. We've been very fortunate with the weather during this winter, not good so far, that people really have been able to be outside quite a bit. However, that the snow is coming, and I think that's going to drive people indoors. So I just wanted to, raise this issue, because I think that it is still something that is deserving of public attention, not just in the newspapers, but I think is still something that we need sort of constant advice, not just from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, but also from our local health authorities in terms of recommendations. And our school systems too, right? I know that they have a website with various recommendations, and they obviously are reflecting this orange rating as well. So. Okay, so thank you all so much for your time.
I think you want
Thank you very much.
I think, even not only with COVID, but with how, severe the flu season has been this year.
And RSV as well. Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think what it comes back to is that I think is as you've all said, you want to exercise good common sense that, if you are sick, then maybe you should, if you are coughing, if you are sneezing, when you've got symptoms, that maybe you should stay away from other people, not only, your family members, but others, and just be cautious, which I think is maybe even a change. I mean, you go back to working 30, 40, 50 years, being old now. At the very beginning, people always went to work, coughing, sick, and stuff like that. And now, I think we all know better that, you, regardless of, whether it's COVID, the flu, or any of these other respiratory viruses, or even a stomach virus or bugs or whatever, it makes sense to be careful and not give it to somebody else. So,
right.
So I think we've all learned maybe to avoid other people, and also if you're uncomfortable, like as you said too, if you're going to shopping and you're uncomfortable, then you should wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. Right. As
opposed to trying to mandate it, and I think that actually created maybe more problems by mandating it for everyone than people trying to exercise good.
Unfortunately, I think there's also been this misperception that young children are somehow, resilient and in some way immune to COVID, and that hasn't borne out. And unfortunately, this last fall, there was a huge uptick in pediatric, not only COVID cases, but RSV.
Right.
Which was respiratory syncytial virus, as well as the flu. And what was happening was young children were getting it many were unfortunately being hospitalized, and those that were not hospitalized were giving it to their grandparents who were taking care of them so that their parents could, go to work. So unfortunately, it wound up being cyclical within families, and that can have devastating results. So again, I think we have to be careful not only as adults, but we have to be careful with our children as well. So,
Yeah, and I saw that with my granddaughter, that, the daycare arrangement that she had, they were very conscious about her not coming in if she had a cold or vice versa.
Right.
So they wouldn't cross-contaminate. But we also have to build up immunity, so.
Exactly.
So again, I think a lot of it comes back to just everybody trying to take care of not only themselves, but each other,
Each other.
like
Exactly.
we talked about.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Thank you for your time.
for your
Appreciate it.
comments.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's it. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll see everybody next month. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.